Good evening. This is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I need to do a video for you to kind of talk about our week ahead and what's coming because it appears we got a pretty decent snowstorm coming at the end of the week. There's still a lot of questions about it. The pattern's still setting up. Model data is still all over the place, as you'll see, but confidence is pretty high that we are going to be impacted by some meaningful winter weather Thursday into Friday, possibly even dragging into Saturday, depending on the timing of the onset. First and foremost, as I was putting this together, the National Weather Service did actually issue a special weather statement, and it's kind of surprising for them to do it this far ahead of time. It tells you their confidence that we've got a wintry issue coming is pretty high. So that statement says significant winter storm to impact the state Thursday through the holiday weekend. A significant winter storm is expected to move through the area Thursday through the weekend with heavy rain, accumulating snow, high winds, sub-zero temperatures, and dangerously low wind chill, all possible across Indiana during that time frame. While confidence remains low on exact details of timing and track of the system and areas where heavy snow could fall, confidence remains high in the dangerously cold air threat and high wind potential. Early look at confidence for potential winter storm. And then they list their areas of higher confidence. And that's that there's going to be a period of high winds with a wind shift to the northwest Thursday into Friday. Extremely cold Arctic air this weekend with temperatures falling below zero. Dangerous wind chills possibly down to minus 20 or minus 30 degrees this weekend. Periods of snow showers on the backside of the system Friday into Saturday. Their areas of lower confidence are the exact storm track and where the areas of heavy snow could set up. The snowfall amounts remain very uncertain at the moment. Higher confidence in accumulating snow further north and west. Temperatures Thursday into Friday could vary significantly across short distances through the state, depending on the track of the system. People need to stay alert to the forecast and the possible changing weather conditions through the week. Be prepared for potential travel impacts. So I don't normally read those, but that's the National Weather Service special weather statement that was issued as I was putting this together. So you can see, even with the National Weather Service, there's a lot of uncertainty with this coming event. So here's a look at the 7-day forecast that I put together. And we can see that, of course, yesterday we had our first somewhat accumulating snow of the season. I think pretty much the whole county got, about a half an inch of snow or so, give or take a little bit. It was enough to impact roads. That's the first one in December, and the first one really since we had a dusting of snow back in the Thanksgiving territory. It's been pushing a month before since last time we really covered the ground good. So as we look ahead into the week, we're going to be chilly, seasonably chilly. Our average high for tomorrow is 38. Our average low is 25. So we're going to be running kind of in that territory, especially with the low temperatures. The questions come in Wednesday into Thursday. Right now, and I'll show you why here in a minute. I'm leaning a little cooler with the temperatures, but some of the model data is pushing temperatures Wednesday and Thursday into the 40s and then dropping them. I think the European on Thursday has our high of 44 and then has the low by Friday morning at -4. That'd be a 48 degree temperature drop in less than 24 hours. That has happened on a few occasions. I don't think that's right. I'll explain why. So I think our temperatures are going to begin to drop early on Thursday rather than later. But the timing of when that happens versus when the front gets here or when the storm gets here is going to be big because if the temperature drop happens later, we would have some we'd have some rainfall early on, which is what the National Weather Service alluded to, and then it would change over to snow as the cold air rushed in. That would be a problem for a number of reasons. And it would decrease our snowfall to an extent, but if we get rain and then cold air rushes in and that flash freezes, then whatever snow falls is going to have ice, a sheet of ice underneath it. Also, we'd have potentially have ice coating power lines and trees and things like that. That is something we do not want to have happen. But some of the model data, the European and GFS has really gone insane with uh, the track on it, and I'll show you here in a minute. But um, right now, I'm favoring more of a little bit flatter track, more of a something tracking along I 70. You know, not the low track along I 70, but that type of trajectory, a little more west to east versus hard southwest to northeast, like I 69 cuts through the state. And that's what some of the global modeling is doing is it's driving the storm really hard from the southwest to the northeast. If that happens, we're probably going to have a blizzard. And again, blizzard does not necessarily mean huge amount of snow. Keep that in mind, and I'll come back to that. And as we get into Thursday into Friday, the temperature will be falling. Pretty much, I think we're going to have a 24 to 36-hour period where the temperature does nothing but fall. And so we'll end up by Saturday morning being below zero. Again, I'm going a touch warmer than some of the data. And again, I'll explain why. Again, as the National Weather Service alluded to, possibly some residual snow showers that could add on to some minor additions to the snowfall totals. As that cold air gets in, it's going to want to squeeze every drop of water, every drop of moisture out of the atmosphere. So, and that's another reason I think we're going to have some higher snowfall amounts, just because we're going to have some very high ratio snowfall. Let's look at the water vapor loop, and this is why I'm favoring a little bit cooler temperatures and more of a west to east track is we can see the trough that's departing the area right now. That's moving out. Back here from the northwest is our surge of our next batch of cold air, and you can see that it's kind of laid out a little more west to east. There's not a big bulge that's pushing southward. It will begin to do that as the storm ramps up, and this little system out here is going to swing out to our west. That's going to help to add a little bit of draw to the cold, but overall, I think this is coming in a little more zonal than what some of the modeling is suggesting. I could be wrong. I think once the storm winds up, it'll begin to pull the cold air around more. But as far as the storm track goes, I'm currently favoring something that's a little more west to east oriented, more like the way I-70 travels versus the really hard turn. But yeah, that's just my line of thinking right now. I could be absolutely wrong. That's what I'm thinking. So here's kind of a look. As you see, the storm's going to come out of the Pacific Northwest. It's kind of dropping down out of Canada, down the western part of Canada. It'll drop into the western United States, kind of get onto the east side of the Rocky Mountains, drop through Colorado. Then it'll begin to make its turn, probably in the Texas Panhandle into Oklahoma. How deep that drops is going to be huge. Enjoy the grandfather clock chiming in the background. Um, Hey, rate, how deep that drops in is going to be huge on the way our storm track plays out. But this is kind of what I'm thinking. What the question to me is does the track follow that southern one and stay a little more west to east, or does it make the hard turn to the northeast, like some of the data suggesting? In which case, that would create a blizzard situation. I'll separate this out here. Uh, the scenario that like the GFS and the Euro and to an extent the Canadian want to do, and that's it. They get the storm down into somewhere in. Don't take this positions exactly right, but it gets the low down into Texas, Oklahoma. and into Arkansas a little bit, and then it turns it hard up to the northeast. If that's the case, and that if that would happen, that's be because this low that's out here in the southeastern U.S. is not being is not drawing any of the energy away from this other low that's going to be affecting us, and that would allow the low that affects us to wind up a lot tighter, develop a lot stronger gradient to it, really wrap the cold air and mix the cold air and the warm air a lot and intensify itself. And that's going to create a stronger storm, maybe a blizzard, and more of a Great Lakes cutter type track like this. I don't think it's going to turn that hard, but we have to plan for that because we could again end up with blizzard conditions if it does take this track. I'm favoring a little more is a little more classic, like a panhandle. Kind of it's not really a panhandle hook because it's not going to turn that hard, but coming out of the Texas panhandle and running along, probably through more through Kentucky than what this is. But that would put the heaviest, and again, these little gray areas I put in here, that's not where all of the snow is going to be. That's just where the heaviest snow would be most favored. And so either way you slice it, Indiana's going to get a really good snow out of this thing. It's just a matter of, is it going to be a classic snowstorm or is it going to be a blizzard? I would note that Madison County has not reached blizzard criteria since the blizzard of February 12th of 2007. And we came close with that one in early January of uh, 2014, but that didn't quite reach blizzard criteria. I'll show you what blizzard criteria is here in a little bit. But this setup right here would occur with some energy transferring from this low over to the one in the southeast. That would help give a little bit of snow um, to the interior parts of the east and northeast as well. And that this is the one I'm favoring the most. But again, I could be dead wrong. There's all these pieces are still putting themselves together, so none of us really know. These computer models don't know. There's no reason to live and die by any particular model swing. Here's a look at the different models. I've got the GFS on here twice for a reason. In the upper left was the GFS this morning at 6Z. This was the one I actually think is more correct of the most recent GFS runs, and it puts it still makes its turn, but kind of up through here, and it puts the heavier snow right through Indiana. That's probably the most correct of its runs. But the last two, the 12Z and the 18Z, have been shifted a lot farther west. They're putting heavier snow back out in northwest Indiana into eastern Illinois. It's hard to see on this, but it still gives us a good 4 or 5 inch snow. But I really think that it's winding up way too tight. It's giving us too much rain. It's giving us some ice, and I just don't think that's correct. But I can't pretend that it doesn't exist. I can't pretend that it's not possible because it is possible. The other ones, the National Weather Service blend of models is probably the most reasonable, although I think it's cutting its snow shield off too much back here in Illinois. I think they're going to have some heavier snow back there. But overall, I think the amounts and the type of track that it's got, and it kind of is again favoring that track more, a runner along the Ohio River type of path or on a parallel to I-70. And again, that's what I favor a little more. The Canadian down here in the bottom left, kind of similar, but you can see that it takes a little bit more of a turn and then begins to wind the storm up. Again, that's a pretty reasonable, if the storm's going to make a turn, I think it's more reasonable that it turns into Ohio and Ohio gets decent snow as well. The European, it really is cranking this thing up. And I don't agree with it, but it's cranking it up and putting down almost a foot of snow here and 20 some inches up in northwestern Indiana, which actually could happen in northwestern Indiana if we get the right fetch off of the Lake Michigan. But the main point of this is just to show you the model data is all over the place. The GFS doesn't even agree with itself between one run to the next two runs, and it's they're going to swing all over the place because they're still trying to figure it out too. So don't drive yourself nuts watching these models and living and dying by them because they will drive you insane if that's what you do. So here's kind of my thinking on it, and actually ignore the text that's in this because I forgot to change it, and it's too late to worry about it now. So ignore the text that's in this box up here. That's all garbage. That's from a storm last winter, and I just forgot to change it. But I put the National Weather Service blend of models kind of in the image up here because then again that's the one I agree with the most. Again, even though I do think it's underdone a little bit out here in Illinois. I, I am 99% sure we're going to get a minimum of 1 to 3 inches of snow. I'm about 90% sure that we're going to get 3 to 6 inches. If I had to make a forecast right now, I would probably go 4 to 8 inches. I would probably straddle between the 3 to 6 and 6 to 10. But we'll see how this pans out. Um, I think there's about a 60% chance that we reach 6 to 10 inches, and then going over 10 inches, maybe a 25% chance at this point. This is for Madison County. It's not for the entire state. So if you're watching from somewhere else, keep in mind this is for Madison County, Indiana, is what this confidence levels are projected at. Blizzard. So here's the definition from the National Weather Service, their definition of a blizzard, because I think people think that a blizzard means you're getting 2 feet of snow and you're going to have drifts over your house, and basically it's got to be the blizzard of 78, or it's not a blizzard. I see people all the time, oh, this isn't even a snowstorm. This is just a heavy snow, let alone getting into a blizzard. So blizzard criteria is this: blowing and or falling snow. Notice it says blowing and or falling, so it doesn't even have to be snowing to have a blizzard. And then they address that at the very end of this. Blowing and or falling snow with winds of at least 35 miles per hour, reducing visibilities to a quarter mile or less for at least 3 hours. So you got to have 3 hours of these conditions in order to reach a blizzard. Winds lofting current snowpack and reducing visibilities without any falling snow is called a ground blizzard. So when you ever hear anybody talk about a ground blizzard, that means we got blizzard conditions for this 3 hour period, but there's not any falling snow. But it is still a blizzard. So with that said, I've taken the high and low of the two of the model data out there. The European is wanting to crank in some 60-mile-per-hour winds with this storm. That would be a pretty moderate blizzard. And the National Weather Service blended models, I would say the GFS is a little closer to the European. It's a narrower wind swath, which I don't agree with, but it's a little closer to the European. The National Weather Service blended models, the Canadian, keep the maximum wind gusts in the upper 40s to around 50. I think that's pretty reasonable. That's going to be a minimal to maybe moderate, blizzard condition. But know that it could reach a pretty strong blizzard criteria if the Euro is correct and the GFS are correct. We might not get as much snow, but we'd still be around 6 inches, but we would have a lot of blowing, a lot of visibility problems. So please plan your travel accordingly and know that this don't wait until Thursday to decide that you're going to go somewhere, because you're going to be driving into a nasty storm no matter how you slice it, probably from northern Tennessee all the way up through Indiana. To me, Indiana is the main target. Eastern Illinois, Western Ohio, and then Michigan is also a main target for this storm. In fact, Michigan's probably going to get the brunt of this thing. So just keep that in mind. If you can travel earlier than Thursday, please do so, because if you get stuck out on the road and this thing rolls in, it's not just going to be your typical snowstorm that you can just trudge on through. And lastly, as always, please support this page, help keep it going. Um, I forgot to post something, but Facebook did renew the incentive program through the 13th of January. So keep commenting and liking. If you can't donate to the page financially, that's a way you can contribute. You helped the page raise about $250 from November into December. So, please help keep that going. Pick that up even more, like as much as you can, watch as much as you can, interact with the Madison County Weather Updates page, not on the awareness pages. That doesn't count. It has to be on the Madison County Weather Updates page. But thank you to all of you who have supported this page financially. I'm at least paying the bills. And again, keep liking everything and keep everything, help keep this page going. I will update you more as this storm comes into better focus. Probably, I'm probably not going to put out an actual forecast until Tuesday, but I might do a preliminary forecast tomorrow. But we'll just see how things develop as this thing gets a little closer. Right now, the energy is still a couple thousand miles away, so a lot can happen between now and then. So with all that said, this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Thank you.